Casio Royale. Well, this watch is somewhat of an internet celebrity, and I wanted to see what the hype is all about. What can be so remarkable about £19 or $25 watch? Well, apart from the really low price, of course. And as it turns out, sometimes when your expectations are really low, you're sometimes in for a bit of a pleasant surprise. Hello and welcome to the channel. If you're already subscribed, thank you and very warm welcome back. And if you're new here, we do watch reviews and talk about watches, so please do join us by hitting that big red subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes. As I mentioned in the intro, this watch is somewhat of an internet celebrity, probably pushing a couple of million views if we combined all the reviews out there so far. So, just in case you haven't seen any one of them, this watch does look very close to the Seiko digital watch worn in one of the earlier James Bond movies. That Seiko is almost impossible to find these days. However, this Casio can be found all day long for about $25. And the story goes that as a nod to one of the James Bond movies, Casino Royale, someone named this Casio Royale, and the name stuck. I've got mine on Amazon. I will leave a link in the description if you are keen. $25 with the next day delivery. Yes, readily available and no need for waiting list. This watch comes in more than one colorway, including this silver one that I have here, which looks the closest to the James Bond watch and has the bracelet, which for me is always a big plus. The watch is packaged in the usual Casio non-G-Shock packaging, nicely wrapped with stickers and with the paperwork on the other side of the box, warranty details and the user manual. Don't be in a hurry to discard the user manual though. The settings are not very complex but not super intuitive either, so I found the user manual to be actually quite helpful. Dimensions. First things first, this is not one of those super light plastic Casios. This was the first thing I noticed when I took it out of the box. It has a bit of a heft to it, not over the top, but still noticeable. We will drop it on the scale in a moment, but let's look at the case measurements first. So at the narrow point it is just under 40mm, and with the buttons it is almost 45mm. Lug-to-lug distance is just over 44mm, and such a compact lug-to-lug distance and the bracelet that falls straight down will make this watch suitable for most wrist sizes, from 6 inches and up. The case height is just over 12.5mm, lug width is 18mm, however the second link of the bracelet is almost 24mm wide, which allows for a nice and seamless visual integration between the bracelet and the case. The bracelet then tapers down to 18mm at the clasp, and we have 20mm wide press clasp here. Fully extended, the supplied bracelet should cover up to your 8¼ inch wrist or about 21 cm. On the supplied bracelet, the watch weighs 92 grams. Compare it to my G-Shock, which actually weighs 10 grams less. Remember, I mentioned it does have some heft to it. Moving on to functionality and the dial, we get kind of standard functions that we're quite used to see on an entry-level Casio digital watches. That includes 5 alarms that can be set either as daily or as one-offs, stopwatch and a countdown timer. In addition, of course, we get a wall time as prominently advertised on top of the case, and illuminator function, which allows for even illumination of the dial. The light duration also can be set to either 1 or 3 seconds long. Wall time allows to track 3 additional time zones, which can be chosen from 48 walled cities, constituting 31 different time zones, and also an additional UTC time zone. The little wall map on the dial gives a visual representation of the time zone being displayed. The bottom half of the dial is dedicated to time, date display, countdown timer and stopwatch display in accordance to the chosen mode. The top left corner has an analog time representation of the T1, also called home time, so even if we change the time zone on the main digital display, we can still see the home time here in the corner. Now, this top little window here is to display the alarm and hourly time signal if it is set. Battery in this watch can last up to 10 years, which is quite remarkable. In terms of the wording on the dial, for some it is a bit busy. Personally, I find it okay. However, I might mod this watch in the future to clean up some of the writings. In general, dial, especially the digital part of it, is very legible. However, the analog circle in the corner might take a bit getting used to. But hey, that's what makes it look closer to the James Bond watch. Crystal. We have nice and flat acrylic here, which is kind of okay at this price point. Chances are it will scratch, however, with some polywatch it can be buffed out quite easily. What do you think? Should have Casio included at least mineral glass here? Please let us know in the comments. Moving on to the case, well, first of all, the top of the case, that is, everything apart from the back cover, is actually resin painted in silver color. Well, I knew that it was resin based on the previous reviews, and still I wasn't particularly impressed when I've got the watch. It is okay, but if it was metal, it would be so much nicer. Other than that, the case is well proportioned, the back case is made of stainless steel and is secured with 4 screws. We have 100 meters of water resistance, which makes this watch great as a daily wear. Washing hands, shower, even swimming, this one should handle it all with no problem. Bracelet. This is not a solid link bracelet, which is fine taking into account the price point. It has fully brushed links and looks pretty good in my opinion. Removing the links is quite simple, a small screwdriver will do the trick. I might do a quick separate video how to adjust this type of bracelets in the future as a reference. We also have a pressed double pusher clasp, which works quite well. There are 4 macro adjustments, so we should have no problem of setting a right length for a comfortable fit. Clasp is signed, which is good. Here's the watch on my about 7-inch wrist. And here it is on a 6¼ inch wrist. Okay, the good, the bad, and well, okay, look, this is not a perfect watch, no such a thing, I guess, no matter the price point, but for $25 there is a lot of watch for the money here. First of all, of course, we get a James Bond reference watch for $25, and the story behind the watch is what usually drives us to own a certain timepiece, and the first vintage Rolex Submariner in James Bond movies, which now cost about $100,000 or more, is a strong testament to this. Second, it is a functional watch, and if you require use of multiple time zones, which these days, even though we don't travel much, is still quite common due to a lot of time zone distributed teams around the globe, this watch could be very useful indeed. And, of course, at 10 years battery life, there is no need to worry about charging this watch overnight. It is set and forget kind of thing. Now, I know that it takes a certain level of watch geekiness, so to speak, if you like to buy one of these. Especially taking into account that we can buy a smartwatch for probably double the price and it will do 100 times more functions, short of making us coffee, I guess. So from that perspective, I think Casio could bring this watch into the 21st century and give it, for real, some of the functions that James Bond movie creators dreamed about half a century ago. Well, nothing lethal, I guess, but a basic tracker functions could take this watch a long way. What are your thoughts about this? Should Casio start including some smart functions into their budget line watches, or is this one as perfect as it is? Please let us know in the comments. And of course, if you find this review helpful, smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.